Hello and welcome to another episode of my knitting and crafting podcast. My name is Mel and I am a yarn dyer living on the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland. If you're new here, then hi, and if you are a returning viewer, then welcome back. And as you can probably see, I'm in a completely different location this episode. I am staying at our rental property for a couple of nights whilst I help a friend out who lives close by prepare for her moving. She's moving house in a few weeks' time, and I'm going to help with packing and things like that whilst I'm down here. We're kind of between guests, so it was perfect timing for me to do so. I have one finished object, one almost finished object, and one work in progress for this episode. A couple of announcements and some more kind of exciting news at the end of the episode too. I think first we'll kick off with the couple of announcements I have before we start with the knitting content. First up, I have the pre-orders are still open for my Hounds of Love colourway, which is part of the Perth Yarn Festival Collaboration Club. Depending on when this video goes out, because we're getting really close to the deadline now, it'll be in a day or two, but basically the deadline for pre-orders is the 21st of July, so that's in a couple of days time from when I'm recording this, and that's available through the Perth Festival of Yarn website, and I will put links in the description box below on YouTube, and if I haven't already done so, I will put a photo on the screen of the colourway. It's just kind of, I don't know if it's funny, fate or fortuitous that Kate Bush has gone to #1 recently in the charts at the same time that my colourway, based upon her Hounds of Love album, has come out. And yeah, it's quite funny really. It was a very influential album for me as a child, and that's really what the Perth Collab Club this year is about, is all of the dyers that have been involved have chosen albums or single covers, record covers basically, or I don't know, it depends how old you are really, that are influential to them. So for me that was Hounds of Love by Kate Bush, or certainly one of the major ones, and I have so many memories of listening to that in my parents' car when I was small, and then in my bedroom as I got older as well. So that's the first announcement. The second one is that what was it? Oh yes, Perth Festival of Yarn. Segueing in there. The tickets have gone on sale for Perth Festival of Yarn, which takes place in September. I think it's the 10th-ish, the weekend of the 10th of September in Perth in Scotland. And I have got my tickets, so yay! I have booked and paid for my tickets, and yeah, I've got all my accommodation sorted and all of my travel and stuff, because I do live on an island. It's kind of a logistical kind of it's like a military exercise trying to get organised to go anywhere from here. But I have my tickets, I'm all organised, so if you're going to Perth, drop it down in the comments, let me know, and hopefully I shall see you there too. I have a weekend ticket and I have a talk ticket for on the Saturday afternoon, and I also have a ticket for the gala evening event on the Saturday night also. So let me know in the comments if you're going, and if you're going to be there too. So I think we should probably get on with the knitting content. And like I said, I do have one finished object, and it's not an object that you've seen before on the podcast if you've been here before, and it is a shawl. It is this shawl that I'm wearing. I've begun this shawl, I don't know, about a month ago. I just had the urge. I don't know what it is about knitting shawls in the summer, but I get the urge to knit shawls, and this one has been in my queue for ages, and so has the yarn been in my stash. I shall take it off, but it is a nice long crescent shawl, perfect for wearing like this. And although the rest of the UK might be enjoying a heat wave right now, where I live on the Orkney Islands, it is around 14 or 15 degrees Celsius. It is not heat wave weather. I could certainly go outside and wear my shawl today. although yesterday was quite muggy, so I probably wouldn't have wanted to wear wool around my neck. But yeah, heat wave we do not have. This, like I said, is the Winter Wonder shawl, and I will try my best to show it off on camera, though I will be struggling because it is rather huge. It is a very large crescent shawl with, because it is a crescent shawl, it's got these lovely kind of curvy ends, which I do like on a crescent shawl. I know not everybody likes those kind of curly ends on the end of a shawl, but I do like them. Yeah, and it is mostly garter ridges with a panel of eyelet lace towards the bottom, a little bit more garter, and another row of eyelets before more garter, and then a picot edge. I steam blocked this last night, which I haven't done for a shawl. Usually I would wet block and kind of lay it out. So yeah, it was a new experience. It worked out really well, although admittedly the picot edge is not as pointy as it would be if I had wet blocked it. But I don't have my pins, so I guess I could steam block it with pins as well, but I don't have pins here because I didn't bring those. And I also didn't bring a darning needle to weave in the ends before recording this, so apologies. First of all, I'm sitting on a very creaky wicker chair, so I do apologise. The pattern is the Winter Wonder shawl, like I said, by Helen Stewart. I thought it was, I just had to check. And yeah, this has been in my Ravelry queue and library for a fair time, and I have had the yarn for quite a time too. Helen Stewart's shawl patterns are very lovely, I have to say. So the yarns that I've used, first of all, I have used hand spun and a indie dyed yarn. There are two different yarns here. I've just dropped my yarn. One moment. Apologies for that. Oh, very creaky. So the yarn for the garter ridges, as you can see, it's kind of multicolours. It's shades of blue and silver and grey, and that is the hand spun yarn. I have very little of it left. I have this much left, hardly any. And the yarn, I spun it myself from a braid of fibre that I got from Created by LCB, and the colourway was a one-of-a-kind colourway called Snow Angels, and as you can see, it was, apologise for my sticky plaster on that hand, it is a 50% merino and 50% tencel blend, and I spun it to, I can't read this in the camera, I spun it to 418 yards, so a fingering weight yarn. Now, because I've touched the camera, it's going to mess up my focus. The eyelet panel, I used a indie dyed yarn, and this one is a sparkle yarn, a sparkle sock yarn, which is, yeah, it is kind of showing up on camera, but because it's a silver grey with silver sparkles, it kind of doesn't show up very well. This one I bought at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, actually, a few years ago, quite a few years ago, which was my first yarn festival I ever went to. And I bought this from Old Maiden Ant Yarns, which is another indie dyer. And as you can see, it's a merino nylon stellina base, and it is in the colourway Dreek. I didn't pronounce that right at all. It is Dreek, which is a Scottish term for a grotty weather day, basically. And yeah, it's great. It's different shades of grey and silver, and I love a really good semi-solid or tonal. I just do. I just love them. I love dyeing them, and I love using them. I have used a, oh, I have to try and look. I think it's a 4.5mm. It is 4.5mm looking needles on just a cable, and I really like it. The tensile gives it a kind of a shine which isn't going to show up on camera because it just isn't, but it has a kind of a sheeny shine to it. And the pattern, you're supposed to have little tiny beads in amongst the joins of the eyelet section, but I just didn't want beads, so instead that's why I've used the sparkle yarn, so the sparkle to kind of give that same sort of effect as the beads. So I think it's tied in really rather nicely because it is the Winter Wonder shawl, and I use the colourway Snow Angels and I use the colourway Dreek, and to me it's kind of like Elsa from Frozen's colours. So I think nice combination. It just, I don't know, it tickled me that it all worked out like that. So that is my finished object for this episode, the Winter Wonder shawl. So next I have to get the almost finished object. I say we haven't had a summer here in Orkney, and that is true. We've had very little nice weather. We had about a week in May and that's our summer, and for some reason we've ended up in autumn already, and it's not looking like it's going to change anytime soon. But a few weeks ago I thought I'd better crack on with my summer knitting. If for my winter shawls, what about summer garments? So I started knitting a linen vest. Perhaps I should have looked at the long range forecast. So it is almost complete. As you can see, I have about 3 rows left to go before I finish this, so I should hopefully finish this today. The pattern is the Soleie shell by Ellie of Skein, and if you know me, that's not going to come as much of a surprise. You know I love Ellie's patterns. It is a vest with fairly plain and then a lace design on the bottom, just there. And Soleie means, well, it's a Scandinavian lace pattern, and Soleie is a type of flower of which the buttercup is a variety of. So that is why it's called the Soleie vest, and it has this flowery pattern on the bottom, which doesn't really show up very well at the moment on the top I'm knitting because it hasn't been blocked, and it is in a light colour. Oh, it does work, it does show up quite well on camera actually. I think it shows up better on camera than it does in real life, but you can see it has these flowers, these flower designs just at the bottom, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I really like lace. I do enjoy knitting lace. I'm not a fan of knitting cables, and I'm not a fan of knitting pearl, but I do enjoy knitting lace and colour work when it takes my fancy. But I don't know, something about lace. I am knitting this on 3mm needles, I believe, and I think it's supposed to be knit at a 24 stitch gauge. Let me just double check the pattern. Yes, 24 stitch gauge, 36 rounds, and I'm using a 3mm needle. I'm not entirely sure if my row gauge is the same, but my stitch gauge certainly is. And this I'm knitting with a linen blend yarn rather than a full linen yarn. It is this kind of a cool beige, which I love a good cool beige, and the yarn is DC Natura linen. If I can get that to focus. Yep. Which is a 58% linen, 26% viscose, 16% cotton, and it hasn't got that kind of string. Well, I guess it does kind of feel string-like, but not string-like like many cotton or linen blends can. It has a nice feel. It almost feels like a silk blend, in the fact that it's kind of it's smooth. It doesn't snag, and doesn't feel tight in your hands when you knit it. I guess because of the viscose, it's kind of got that shininess like a bamboo blend yarn would have. So yeah, it's kind of slubby. I'm not sure if it will show on camera in the, oh it will, in the garment, but you can see it's kind of got this slubbiness to it, which means it's not like a flat textured fabric when it's knit. It's kind of got, not only does it have tonal variation, but also has this kind of textural variation, which I really like. And yeah, I only have, like I said, 3 more rows I think of the lace, and then the finishing at the edge, which is, I haven't actually even looked how you finish the edge, but I would imagine only 4 or 5 rows till this is complete. So I will, touch wood, be finished this evening whilst I'm watching some TV. And that only brings us down to one last object. I know, for me, this is really short. I actually don't have a huge amount on the needles. I had a lot on the needles, and then in the previous episode I showed a lot of finished items that had obviously been on the needles, and I haven't cast on a huge amount recently. I have several things I wish to cast on even. I have a autumn, in fact I'm already thinking about autumn and winter knits. I have an autumn sweater, colourwork sweater I really want to crack on with in a lovely burnt orange colour, and that's going to look stunning. I really want to crack on with it because I want to see what the yarn is like and how it knits up, because I have another sweater in mind in the same yarn and same colourway that I think would look fabulous, but I need to know how this yarn will knit up because it's not a blend I would usually use. So my last object, and the only one I will have left when I finish that vest top to work on whilst I'm away, so hopefully it'll last me, is a pair of socks, and it is a pair of summer socks. Again, in the hope of summer that we do not have. Anyway, the socks I am working on is just basically a pair, I'm getting really tangled, a pair of vanilla socks, but the yarn is not one I would normally work with. The design for a start is really rather summery, with this watermelon colourway design, which is really pretty. I don't know, I just really like the colour. I thought it was quite fun, and it is a commercial sock yarn, and I thought it was just a little bit of fun. But when I bought the yarn, I hadn't realised the blend that the fibre was. This is the yarn, and the yarn itself is Regia Cotton Colour Tutti Frutti 2. There we go. Regia yarn, and it is a 72% cotton, 18% polyamide, 10% polyester blend, which is certainly not something I would normally pick. I don't know, I just assumed it was sock yarn, as it is. I wouldn't normally choose a cotton sock yarn, mostly because I kind of think of cotton as being hard to knit with, tight on your hands, kind of like knitting with string. And I wouldn't normally buy a yarn with the polyester in it. Polyamide, yes, because that's just nylon, but the polyester, no, because to me polyester makes your skin sweat, so to me it doesn't make any sense to put it in a pair of socks, but certainly not some pair of socks, but we'll see how it goes. But the yarn itself actually feels really nice. When it knits up, it just knits up like wool. It doesn't feel like you're knitting cotton at all, which is really nice, and it does feel quite smooth. It's almost got a chenille kind of a feel to it when you're knitting it, and it kind of has that same feel in the ball as well. The colourway is 209, but I believe it is called Tutti Frutti, or Tutti Frutti 2, but Tutti Frutti. And yeah, I am only on the first sock, which is good because otherwise I'm going to run out of knitting to do. I'm not a super speedy knitter, but you know, several episodes of a TV show and I may get through the sock fairly quickly. I am just doing a vanilla sock, kind of my standard toe up, Turkish cast on, and I am working on the heel at the moment, and I'm doing an eye of partridge slip stitch on the base, and when I get a little way up the back of the heel I will probably just switch to knitting stockinette again, because as I spoke about before on the podcast, I don't wear shoes a lot, or I don't wear my Doc Martens rather a lot, because I work from home and I spend a lot of time at home. I'm usually in socks or slippers, but shoes not so much. So the back of my heel doesn't really wear, but it will wear on the bottom of the heel and on the bottom of the foot generally. I have a big pile of repairs to do in my sock repairs to do in my repair basket. Too many words in the wrong order there. So yeah, I haven't got contrast toes and heels at all, which is unusual for me. I am just knitting with this yarn. I did consider contrast toes and heels, but decided to just stick with the same base. I have been knitting it in the round on a 9-inch circular for the body of the sock, and magic loop for the toes and heels, which I find is just the easiest way. I can't do 9-inch circulars on a heel, and I'm very clumsy on DPNs, so I don't use those either. So that is my last work in progress, my second work in progress, but my last knitting project for this episode. So what's been happening with life stuff? Well, we've had family visitors almost non-stop for about 2 months now. It's been busy, plus work, plus flat, Airbnb guests. It has been very, very busy. In May, my oldest son was visiting with his girlfriend, and then 2 days later my mum visited for a few days, and then 2 days after that my youngest son came to visit for several weeks, and how long after that? 2 days after that then my stepdaughter came up to visit as well, which she is actually still with us. She is at home with my husband, and they're doing father-daughter bonding stuff, and I've come away for these 2 days. Like I said, I would say to have a rest from all the visitors, but because we're between guests at the flat, I also have the changeover to do on my own, which I wouldn't normally do, and I also have this helping a friend moving boxes around and packing boxes today. So I would say a holiday, but not really. But I do have a holiday coming up next month, thank goodness, as well as Perth Yarn Festival. Apologies, my camera just switched itself off there. I think I came up to the time limit for recording. So yeah, I have a holiday coming up in September, but I also have one coming up in August, and that is I'm going up to Shetland for a few days. I know, because it's obviously not cold enough in Orkney, I must go further north. Why don't I just fly to Norway while I'm at it? But no, I'm going to Shetland. My sister is staying in Shetland currently with her boyfriend. They have a off-road camper truck thing they live in, and they'll be going away traveling again in September, so I'm taking the opportunity to go visit them whilst they're still on the island and kind of somewhere based. They've been up there for like 6 months. They have a YouTube and mostly on Instagram, but it's Orkney Overlanders, just so you know. But they have a overland truck and they go off on adventures and such like. But I'm going to go visit because I have not seen my sister for a few months now, and I've never been to Shetland. So yeah, I'm going to go explore the island. I have family up there, I have friends up there that live up there. I'm going to visit those too, and instead of sleeping on sofas and such like, I am taking my car, and my husband has been helping me to convert it into kind of a micro camper. So instead it's kind of my spare bedroom micro camper, and I can also go traveling and visiting different places in my car and take all the bits and pieces that I need with me. It's going to be fun, hopefully. Yeah, touch wood, it'll be fun. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. It's only for a few nights, and I'm hoping to vlog it as well, and I'll do a little vlog video and show you the sights of Shetland whilst I'm up there, and I'll post it on the channel when I come home and what have you too. And yeah, it's exciting, and it's kind of going to be a whirlwind trip, but I suppose it's slightly different to somebody who lives in Orkney going to Shetland compared to somebody who lives in, say, well, anywhere else and then going to Shetland. Shetland and Orkney are kind of similar kind of environments. I mean, it's more rugged in Shetland, but it's not like going from the city to Shetland, which is like completely different. The same way Orkney is different to, say, the Peak District in Derbyshire. If you lived in, we used to live in Derbyshire, moving to Orkney is a completely different environment. Going from Orkney up to Shetland, it's different, but it's not hugely different. So I can spend more of my time looking at things that we don't have in Orkney rather than just countryside or, you know, cliff walks and things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing the big brocks that we don't have. Well, we have brocks in Orkney, but not in as good condition as on Shetland. Obviously, the Shetland wool shop. I'm going to have to check my Ravelry queue for a colourwork item that I need Shetland wool for, because the Shetland wool shop, obviously. And yeah, actually, if there's any of you live in Shetland or are going to be in Shetland in the next, I don't really want to put exact things down just for safety reasons of dates and stuff, but if you're going to be in Shetland in the next like month, let me know. And so, well, that is my fun thing to look forward to. 2 fun things to look forward to: Shetland, Perth, and then the autumn arrives. So yay. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because I have this podcast to edit, and then I have to go around to my friend Pam's house to help her pack. And yeah, so I shall hopefully speak to you again soon, and if not before my trip to Shetland, then the next video will be the vlog. Otherwise, I will see you on the next episode. Bye.